The Jim and Terry Show, coming to you from the Hobbit Hole Studio in Bob Cajun. I'm your host, Terry.
And I'm Jim, the other guy.
Jim's back from having a vacation or getting better from a throat. No, a cold.
It was a cold. It was a sinus cold, a cough. That's what it was. A little bit of soreness in the lungs.
You weren't being attacked by any drones, were you?
I was not, but by George, in the news yesterday, there was quite a kerfuffle going on about a drone that flew 600,000 kilometers. No, a drone that...
Being a little sarcastic, are we?
Yes, a drone that blew up over the Kremlin. And who's responsible for that?
Well, a good question. So what are the leading theories? This is a drone attack that was going around the internet on the news yesterday. You saw a night shot of the Capitol buildings in Moscow, and you saw an explosion in the sky. You saw an object and then explosion. And the question is who, what, where, when, and why?
Yeah, and Russia said that Ukraine did it. Now Russia's saying the United States did it.
Oh, really? That's a change overnight.
That's new this morning. And I think it was Russia did it to themselves. And the reason I think they did it was to bolster up support that people need to join the army because they're going to come and kill us. Instead of deserting and trying to flee the country, maybe it'll help in recruiting. And sadly, I think the other thing might be to really up the hypersonic missile attack on Ukraine and have support for that.
I'm thinking they're running low on missiles, which is why they're doing all this other shenanigans.
Well, you may be right. I don't understand. How can we understand the mind of Putin?
You're right. If we could read his mind.
If we could read his mind, Terry. So that's why, so far, I'm thinking if I had to pick door number A, B, or C, I'd pick door number B, that Russia did it to themselves to get the people all excited. One of the things I find that backfires in that whole plan, if that's the case, is it shows if they want you to think that Ukraine did it, how did Ukraine get right to Moscow and send a drone over?
With a flimsy drone.
Well, a flimsy drone. Number one, it didn't have much power in it. Number two, it couldn't come from Ukraine because it's too far away. Those drones can only go, 140 maybe, 140
Something
kilometers
like that,
in distance. The United States, why would they do it? And why would they do it with such a stupid little drone? You know, they got drones that could take out the whole city.
And not a big explosion for
just
a drone that should have had a lot of explosive on it.
Yeah, firecracker almost. You know, it wasn't that, but that's why
Listen to us, weapons experts.
Yeah. I think it was a planned, somebody had their finger on the button. Okay, hit it now. Bloom, and it blows up. Just enough to damage slightly the roof, but... and it was coming in. It seemed very slow. So, I mean, how could it not get intercepted? Like, it just
to travel 300 kilometers and nobody got it?
Nobody saw it.
And it's just going... bzzz.
Well, and flying 25 kilometers an hour, there's something
it's
wrong with
not like a
this whole
hypersonic
setup.
missile attack or anything.
Yeah. So I think it's
False
Russia
flag.
for their real.
Right. False flag operation seems to be the leading hypothesis at this point. And from our war operations desk in the Hobbit Hole Studio, we've carefully analyzed the video, and we sort of suspect that the false flag has a number of motivations. One is to make it look like Moscow is vulnerable, so that justifies a whole bunch of whatever they're going to do.
Drafting of people.
Mass drafting.
Arresting people who...
Oh, yeah, more control of the streets and the media, lockdown, whatever measures they're going to take. Yeah. Arrest the opposition leaders. Wait a minute, they've already done that.
I hope it isn't to justify setting off a nuclear bomb.
We had mixed feelings. I think you think they will, and I'm saying I don't think even Russia in their craziest moment of insanity would justify that, and I think the military would head that decision off. So I'm hoping there's a little big red button on his desk, like, remember the Staples buttons that used to slap the button, and it's not plugged into anything, but Putin carries it around with him. Anyway, that's my theory. Linking that false flag operation, well, you did say they said it would be the U.S., and would the rationale be if that was a United
I
States?
have no idea. That's what the
Okay.
United States said. Why on earth would we do something
Right,
like that?
and if it was the
when we're telling Ukraine, don't attack Russia.
Ukraine hasn't owned up to it, but the rationale that Russia says that it was Ukraine goes something like they wanted to demonstrate the vulnerability, that no one's beyond our reach. So if Putin's vacationing anywhere at his numerous estates, we can find him anywhere. He's got body doubles riding trains and everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's more this. If it isn't Russia, if Russia didn't do it, I think it's a rogue outfit in Russia who are opposed to the war, and they probably right now are going, I can't believe we almost pulled that off, man. That almost made it, man. We almost did it. You know, firing it out of the back of a van, you know, that kind of thing. And that's dangerous too when you got your own people all of a sudden wanting to turn on you.
That's good, maybe?
Oh, it's good for those of us who
want to see an end to
Ukraine
the war.
and want to see an end to the war.
Right.
Not good for Russia. But I mean, look at America's the same way. Everything's going nuts all over the world. So, Lord only knows what would happen if it was America attacking Canada. Or, you know, I don't know.
Well, if Tucker Carlson had his way, we would have already been occupied. But let's stick with the drone attack on Moscow and take a look at false flag operations in general, and take a look at Nord Stream 2, the pipelines that were mysteriously exploding in the North Sea.
I was asked the other day, do you think the United States did that? I said they could have, yeah. They could have. You know, I don't know what to believe anymore. You know, they could have done that, saying it was Russia. I don't know why Russia would do it. It doesn't make much sense. They can just shut it off. Unless, again, it's propaganda. Look what they've done.
Yes.
You know, and we're not going to take the blame for it.
Yeah.
But we're in a place in this world now that we just double think everything now.
Yeah, we take nothing for granted.
Yeah.
And you have
It's
to.
exhausting.
It is exhausting if you. Well, you and I both value history, so the historical perspective on understanding this conflict lends you and I a different vantage point. We tend to see it as Russia has always been like this.
Yeah, you never could trust Russia, ever. There was a brief moment we thought, and that's why look at the prosperity that came to Russia just by being a peaceful nation.
Because the West suddenly invested in Russia,
invested
in the
in
outpouring
Russia.
of capitalism.
And now they've all pulled out of Russia. How is Russia ever going to escape this anyways? They're not going to go back to normal if they pull out of
there's
Ukraine.
no going back to normal. The question is on what conditions would Russia rejoin the global community. Yeah. And they can't join it as a pariah state, as a North Korea, or even China, for all its wonderful production and a lot of U.S. companies moving headquarters to China and Tesla producing in China. For all of that movement, China's can't be trusted either. And maybe we'll get to a discussion on the Michael Chong and the conservative MPP, I think. So China's influence, and what about Chinese police in Canada operating with what?
You can't trust China at all, but they're very clever. Do not ever to say that they're not. Number one, they got wonderful military equipment, wonderful, and they spend a lot on military, and they've got the people that they can throw at any war. Just they don't care if they die. Throw them in there and just clog everything up. But the other way in which they battle, and I think you're aware of this, is for instance, they're in Argentina now hobnobbing with the Argentinians. And what they're going to do, I'll prophesy for you if you want. They're going to give them money, but then they'll go one step further. They'll say, look, well, we can build you a whole port city, a beautiful port city. We'll invest $6 billion in your port city here. And Argentina will go, that's wonderful, that's great, but then they won't be able to pay it and they'll default. And part of the agreement is now it becomes...
If you default, we own it.
We own it. And that's what they do around the world.
Yes.
And you know that as well as I do. We'll build that bridge for you. Or we'll build that part of the city for you. And the poorer countries go, yeah, and Argentina's in bad shape right now. So they're just prone for that kind of money coming in and that investment.
100% inflation.
Yeah, it's horrible. One American dollar, I think, is over 400 Argentinian pesos. So
Unbelievable.
the inflation's just ridiculous.
So China can come in as the rescuer.
That's what they
So
do.
this is the old phrasing, caveat emptor, buyer beware.
Yeah.
If you invite China's money, if you invite Russia's money, even if you invite American money,
Yeah.
does it all come with strings?
It does. Absolutely, all of it comes with strings.
Jim, you had breakfast this morning. It came with no strings.
You're not a nation.
But we need to extrapolate from our personal behavior and our beliefs and code of conduct to national code of conduct. There are strings with stuff?
Well, I don't understand it. You probably know more about it, and if you don't, just admit it. But apparently there's a big move with some of the moving of China right now to have their dollar with India, China, Iran, Russia completely replace the American dollar, like just make the American dollar worthless.
That seems like a bit of a conspiracy, but I could see it working to the advantage of those particular nations. But it doesn't work when you're talking about global trading. So that I'm a little skeptical of. However, where did we start with? The drone in Moscow?
Drone
We've
in
been droning on about the drone?
Yeah, well, the drone came from somebody, and
We know where it went. We don't know who.
we know where it went, and we know that Russia was very quick to be broadcasting it,
Yes.
which shows their vulnerability if it really did happen.
Yeah.
So come on, we have to put two and two together here.
Yeah.
Russia hides everything. Why would they have this all out there if they didn't have plans around it?
Will Russia ever stand trial at The Hague for war crimes? Will Putin stand trial personally? His
I
enablers?
think they'll blow up everybody before they'll do that. So
Okay, so
that's
there will
my
be
concern.
no Nuremberg trials take two. I waxed eloquent in a podcast a few episodes ago that I thought Putin's going to be arrested, charged, and we'll see it. I don't think he will travel, which is the only way he can avoid being rounded up.
We'll see, won't we?
All right, Jim and Terry Show talking about drones. That's the air raid. Grab your coffee, Jim. Run. All right, bye-bye for now.